We can confirm that 2 patients in England who are members of the same family have tested positive for coronavirus.
On February 2020, the Chinese government has built 2 hospitals aimed to receive all the COVID-19 patients in Wuhan. On that, telling the whole world this is a dangerous disease. On the 28th of February 2020, the first death case of UK citizen was reported. Unfortunately, not much has been done by the UK government to cope with the virus on the whole month. Until the 3rd of March, the Prime Minister Boris Johnson told that
wash your hands with soap and hot water for the length of time it takes to sing Happy Birthday twice. It's simple advice, but it's the single most important thing.
But by just washing hands was not enough to fight the virus.
What sort of percentage of people need to have contracted the virus?
Probably about 60% or so.
60%?
60% is the sort of figure you need to get.
However, this advice eventually has not been accepted by the government. On the 23rd of March, the Prime Minister announced that
it's vital to slow the spread of the disease. The time has now come for us all to do more. From this evening, I must give the British people a very simple instruction. You must stay at home. Will only be allowed to leave their home for the following very limited purposes.
when looking back to the beginning, it was later confirmed that the first COVID-19 patient was admitted by the hospital on 1st of December 2019 in Wuhan. On December 30, an internal notice from the Wuhan Health Commission indicated the presence of unknown pneumonia that was the first time known to the public of the disease. 5 days after that, the World Health Organization announced the information. On the 23rd of January, Wuhan went into lockdown. In a few days, the whole province of Hubei was in lockdown. On the end of January, the first UK cases were found. 53 days after that, the country went into lockdown. And now it's February 2021. Nearly 1 year after, people are still in lockdown in the country. The 76 days of lockdown was ended on 8th of April in Wuhan. It means that the entire Hubei province is lifted from the lockdown. During the time, people are not allowed to leave or enter the cities. For most of the reasons, there were roadblocks set on the highway. Train station and the airport was closed on the whole lockdown period. But after the day, people would gradually go back to their normal life in Wuhan. On the day lifted lockdown, there was 0 new cases in the Hubei province. In the UK, the authorities developed a very complex set of guidelines for the lockdown. People were acting differently. It was mainly relying on public awareness due to the lack of law enforcement supervision.
All go home, please. It's not a holiday. It's a lockdown, which means you don't just come in and sunbathe. Can you please just leave?
On 30th of April, the Prime Minister said that
I can confirm today that for the first time, we are past the peak of this disease.
there is an interview of a British who has experienced both the Wuhan and the UK lockdown.
As an island nation, I think we had every opportunity to basically cut our country off, just the same way that we did in China with Wuhan. We closed the airports, we closed the train stations, the bus stations, all the restaurants, everything was closed down. And we could have done that in England, and we didn't. And not only did we not do it, we didn't do it until the 24th of March. The point is they acted really quickly. They have acted more quickly than any other country in the world, as far as I can tell. And, you know, a testament to that is the fact that it is coming out of lockdown. People are getting back to their daily lives. And I should have trusted that. We should have stayed there. We made a bad choice.
There were 3 steps to lift the lockdown in the UK. On the 23rd of June, the Prime Minister announced that the pubs can be reopened on 4th of July, and that was the symbol to end the lockdown. The unlock time was varied depending on the nation, but by the end of July, the whole country lifted the lockdown. At the time, the average number of daily new cases on July was nearly 700. Compared to the time Hubei province lifted the lockdown, the daily new case was 0. This was the difference between the Chinese government and the UK government of the timing to end the lockdown. And this contrast, plus a series policies of stimulating consumption to encourage people going out to shop, would plant the seeds for the second lockdown in the UK. Besides those differences, there were also something similar to both of the countries. The scientists of the 2 countries play a really important role during the pandemic. In China, the first person suggested to lock down was not anyone from the government, but the academician Li Lanjuan. Her advice, which was unprecedented, would lead the Hubei province with nearly 60 million people into lockdown. In the UK, the strict scientist did not advise to lock down at the beginning, but he predicted many things right.
If you completely locked down absolutely everything, probably for a period of 4 months or more, then you would suppress this virus.
When we look back, the first lockdown in UK was for 4 months. And yes, the virus has been suppressed by the time.
All of the evidence from previous epidemics suggests that when you do that and then you release it, it all comes back again.
And he was right, the virus came back again.
Themselves not adhering to their own policies, so they keep getting caught. Like there was a politician that was arrested in Scotland because they didn't follow the rules. They went to London and then tested positive for CV-19 and then went back to Edinburgh, so that affects spreading it. And when people see that their own officials aren't supporting that, they won't follow the rules.
英国其实你可以说它是一个尽量减少人外出的一个政策，但当时在武汉是一个禁止人外出的这样的一个措施。一开始会很恐慌，就是刚开始2-3天吧，因为以前没有遇到过封城这种情况的，但谁都不相信会封城，因为非典的时候都没有封城，所以大家不相信会封城。对，然后真的封城的时候，出不去了，然后大家才说，怎么会有这么严重？
当时的那个情况是大家都还没有意识到疫情这个事情很严重，所以在武汉的那个时候，大家都在准备过年的食物呀，包括年货呀，所以基本上机场是全部都是人，就没有什么那种疫情的那种变化。然后从23号封城的时候开始就非常夸张，因为是突然间封的城，我就觉得说。因为人他有一个过程，你突然发生一件事情，你没有一个经验，你就是很恐惧啊。武汉是封城之后是没有人上街的，你哪怕要去医院，你可能都要徒步。最初的时候是没有志愿者去开车送医护人员跟就是病人去医院的。然后我在乡下是这样，乡下它是村跟村之间所有的路都是阻断的，是不可以就是跨村。跨这个镇去这样流通的，然后村跟村之间所有的路也是用石头就是堵起来。
我们这边是回到乡里了，然后乡里面经常会有那个喇叭去宣传大家不要出门，然后各种的路也封起来了，乡里间路也封起来了，然后经常会有村干部在那里巡视。开始的时候是开始没有封路，很大一部分是靠自觉，然后强制性的话就是一点都不可以出门了，然后城市里面的灯全部变成了红灯，如果你一上路就是闯红灯，只有那种运物资的车它需要报备，就是一路上畅通无阻这样，私家就是闯红灯，因为全部都是红灯。我们家那边应该说是城乡结合部，前面有那种公路，然后经常就有救护车跑来跑去，警车也是跑来跑去。在市里面住的那个小区，它就是有感染了，整个小区特别严，管得特别严，大家就在小区就在自己房间，你不能出门，然后每天都要进行消毒，有那个政府派人专门的人，就整个小区时不时的消毒，然后走到那些地方，管控都非常严，大家都不能出门，就没有机会，也没有机会去接触这些东西，去互相接触大家。如果到后期了之后，稍微管控没有那么严了，疫情稍微松散以后，就是去超市里面买东西，就把你需要买的东西写张纸，告诉超市里面的人员，他会帮你买，然后再出来当面给钱这样。
其实回想起来，就是那个时候封城是唯一的解决办法。对，因为其实武汉的医院，你平时去3甲医院都特别的挤，所以那个时候可想而知，如果有轻症加重症的病人一起都到那些医院去，医院的负荷是完全承受不了的，所以那个时候是绝对不能让这个病继续再蔓延下去，所以他们才采取了非常严厉的封城措施。
可能有很多的就是各式各样的想法，但是我经历这个事情让至少是像我这样的年轻人嘛，就是90后这一代，是更加相信国家是国家的能力的，而且在这个事情过程当中，你也看到了我们国家在面对这个事情当中，一切是以我们的人民出发的，就是你看到了很多的人其实就是并没有那种事不关己的状态在看待这个事情，你会发现很多的人在我们国家在面对这种灾难的时候，我们所有人都愿意为了别人去付出，这个东西是让我感受非常深的。
我觉得在使用封城这个词语的时候，作为一个中文为母语的人，我们能够联想到的封城对应的场景和英国所谓的 lockdown 是完全不一样的。我知道他们有分不同的等级，然后会根据这个地方的传染性高低来划分这个区域等级。比起我去年在国内经历的，就是最开始爆发的一段期间来讲的话，其实是相对宽松的。比起国内来说，至少在苏格兰可以出门买菜，买一些必须的用品，而且是不需要报备的。比起国内前段时间最开始爆发的时候的那个控制的政策是非常宽松的了，已经。学习的这个专业来说，是学心理学的。我觉得就从英国政府制定的这个现在目前的一些政策来说，至少它从心理层面比起中国以前为了控制疫情做出的一些政策，从心理层面来说，对民众心理的负担是更小一些的。
当时就是国内湖北人都表示很恐慌，他自己本身就怕感染这个病毒，然后又很听政府的政策来实施一切事情，然后到了这边过后，民众好像就并不太听政府的话吧，然后包括你走到大街上都很少人戴口罩。中国把新冠疫情这个事情就是说的很严重的样子，包括我到这边来，我感觉我对新冠这件事情好像有点麻木了，好像我也感觉是一个很小的感冒了一样，除了就是不能去学校上课以外，我在寝室里面生活让我一点也感觉不到这边是在封城的阶段，因为你可以出去买东西啊，你可以想去哪就去哪，只是不能去学校上课而已。我觉得封与不封它好像没有什么多大的意义， 在这边。
执行层面不是说是民众来执行这个政策，而是说政府机构怎么样落实这个政策到民众生活当中的部分。那我觉得它执行不到位，除了政治方面政策监管制定的因素之外，还有文化上面一些差异，以及本身不同。觉得应该东西方文化上面大家一些共识上的东西会不太一样。像中国的话，可能大家还是会更看重集体的一些东西，就会为了一个集体的一个目标去牺牲掉个人的一些东西但是可能在西方的一些文化的概念下，个人的一些选择是非常珍贵的。像中国，比如说我们如果大家都说不要出去，不要出去，不要出去，大家还蛮听话的。但这边还是会有人要出去，因为他们每天习惯的东西是我今天要健身，我今天要遛狗，我今天就是我的 daily routine， 我要 keep daily routine 不一样的。我觉得中国政府当时是为了在最快的程度当中，最快的时间当中控制疫情的扩散，这是他的努力，并且还要最大程度的确保恐慌情绪不要扩散。第三，极大程度的要保证在封城之后的经济恢复到疫情前的状态，这是3个他们要处理的一个比较大的问题。那在这3个问题下会存在很多的小问题，或者是说个人的问题被忽视。那么这些被忽视的问题就是他们没有努力去做到的。应该说是在比如说我们经常也是我们做一些事情，我们要舍弃掉一些方向，这些东西可能是他们觉得说我们要先把主要问题处理之后再面对的次要问题，那这些次要问题其实是引起了很多的争议的。
当时佛家社区有感染，当时就有感染，然后我们大年初1的时候晚上就从社区头我隔壁单元就拉走一个人，对，然后一旦有感染，他一个单元的人全都不能出门，社区的服务人员就把6栋楼给封死了，然后就限制他们不能出门，他们有什么需求的话就让社区的人去送。对，然后再往后一点的过后，就是一个小区有感染的那个小区就被封了。然后我来到这边过后，就是一个 flat 有一个人感染了，就是那个 flat 就给封掉了嘛，但是其他的人都不影响，对吧？我们 reception 就会送一些食物到他的寝室门口放着，然后让他自己去取进来。
而且就是比较严格，我们小区它这个封城就具体到就是小区的人都不能出去，1个礼拜只给你1到2次的机会出去买菜，除此之外你就不能去，而且会有通行证这些东西。
那城市之间的交通呢？
完全就不可能，我觉得根本就没有人出去的感觉，就别提什么坐公交车什么坐高铁什么的了。浙江离武汉还挺远的，但是还是就是大家真的还都挺惶恐的，所以就还是遵守的，我觉得还是挺好。但是我们隔壁小区就是也有，就是他被感染了，然后没有上报，然后他们家全部被感染的情况也有。这里生活其实我感觉并没有受到多大的影响，但是如果是国内的话，是真的就是会待在家里不出来，但这边就是还是会出来，并没有什么就很多人可能就是有这个政策在，但大家并不会去想要说真的配合政府，就是真的就待在家里不出来，但肯定会减少，就是没有国内这么严格，我觉得。
那你觉得是比较松动的政策会更好一些，还是严格的政策会更好一些？
我觉得是就新冠这个来讲的话，应该是比较严格的政策会更好一些，因为确实两国之间进行比较的话，就是中国的防疫效果，就是大家应该都是有目共睹的，确实做的比英国好很多。 还有说，就是因为觉得可能猫和狗会被传染，中国这一点就没有做得很好，就遗弃了很多猫和狗，然后英国这边应该不会有，就好的坏的都有，我觉得就是。
It reflects the government's strength to enforce their policies. Obviously, in that city in China, they've put the rules firmly in place so everyone knows exactly what's going on. You're getting food delivered, you're getting all your supplies delivered to your door so you don't have to go anywhere. In this country, nothing like that has happened because you're still having to go to supermarkets to get your supplies. You're still having to leave your house and, you know, get your medication if you need it. You still have to leave your house to go to work, like myself. So at the end of the day, I think it's come from the government allowing or, you know, not allowing these things to happen. And in this country, they're obviously a lot more lenient and haven't followed through with the policies as such. I think we should never have come out of the first lockdown. They've kind of dragged it out, opened up things in stages, kind of dripped it out to us as the public, and now we're kind of suffering again because we're going back into the initial lockdown that we first started with. We've almost done like a whole cycle this year, and now we're going to be starting the whole new year in a lockdown again. So it's just very frustrating, very frustrating.
I think that the way that the Chinese government attacked the situation was actually perfect, and I think it's because they're used to SARS, they're used to loads of outbreaks in that area. I remember myself when I was speaking to a lot of students, a lot of people back in January and February, I told them this was a serious issue, that they shouldn't be traveling down in that area, they shouldn't be doing this and that, and that it's going to come to the UK and it'll be very serious. And everyone said to me that I was overinflating the situation, that I was just being like jealous of people traveling, when actually, because I've lived in like Saudi Arabia, Dubai, Kenya, Sudan, I understand how these outbreaks affect people. In general, Western people, they enjoy their freedoms, they enjoy their right to protest, they enjoy their individual rights. They don't like the people telling them what to do, especially the government. And the government keeps changing their position. You know, they're like, second lockdown will never happen, and then it's happening. 2 weeks ago, they were like, January, there's not going to be a lockdown, people go back to school. And then kids went back to school on Monday. Then the next day, they were like, nope, schools are closed.
It should never be the case that the government has been put. I don't think it's right that the government has this amount of power to be able to say you can't see your friends, to mandate what you have to wear on your face, to say you have to stay at home, you can't see your family, cancel Christmas, just on and on and on. I think we have certain rights, and one of those main ones is to provide our own living selves. And I think to discourage that, I think it is criminal. To close down small businesses which employ over half the country. And that's why you have over half the country now dependent on the government. The government is doing what it thinks the will of the people is. That's a very dangerous thing, because then you are saying that there is a collective will, and you're saying there is such a thing as a collective will. And by doing that, you're basically saying that people are not individuals. And I think the only thing I care about is individual rights and freedom of speech. And I think when you get into the point where you're saying this is the good of all the people, there have been many, many horrible human beings throughout history who have said something very similar to that.
我们是分等级的嘛，如果不是1级防控的话，它不会送到你的门口，然后你是可以去买菜的。
是怎么想吃那照片？
我觉得首先在欧美的一些地区本身，他们就会有对于政府不满，然后选择来上街游行的这样一个习惯，本身就有这样的一个习惯。在中国我不敢说以前没有，但是至少80年代以后是没有的。中国前期的确也是有一些抗议的行为，但我们没有选择上街抗议，并不是 因为说我们到底要不要去选择这个方式来抗议与否，而是我们的发声渠道并不多，我们选择用网络上的方式来解决这个一问题。上这一大部分原因是肯定是需要自己的声音被认可的，是要把自己面对的一些难处呈现出来给社会看。
We must act like any wartime government and do whatever it takes to support our economy. And that's the main purpose of this press conference this afternoon. We must support millions of businesses and tens of millions of families and individuals through the coming months.
就是在疫情期间不是 lockdown 嘛 ，lockdown 的时候，他们对工资补助这一块，和对餐厅的帮助就是减免地税这一块，真的是很好。因为如果是真要是那样，就是我们正常发工资和交地税啊，我们餐厅早就关闭了。
你需要的东西告诉政府，他们都会帮你解决。然后关于那些补助了，就是我开店的话，后面政府补助按每平40块补助。然后直接给你打钱，上限是最高补助达4000，不会超过4000。还有一个就是电费降低了，专业用电。
对你们收入有影响，不仅员工哦。
是的，我们收入基本就是等于零，没有收入了。现在就是每个月都还是亏钱，为什么呢？我们的房租啊、电啊、气啊这些一样的要交，这个都是。就是刚开始的时候，我们这里餐厅有1万镑的那个什么补助。就好像就说是疫情期间那个政府补助，就对 business 的帮助是很。
我们对私营的员工没有补助，然后而且私营企业所有的生意变得不好，然后员工基本上都减少。其实真正有一部分人是失业状况。
那时候就有很多员工同事因为没工作嘛。但是你也想保留这些员工以后再回来上班，所以这时候英国政府的措施就是给他们开工资了。英国对我们的帮助就是帮我们保住了员工，他们就算在家也会给他们发成80%吧，80%的那个工资吧，正常收入。
这笔钱是每个月都可以收到。
对，这个对这个帮助挺大的，对老板也减轻老板负担嘛。
Despite that, the economic recession has not been avoided. The UK GDP growth rate in 2020 was -9.9%. According to the Bank of England historical data, the last time when GDP collapsed higher than in 2020 was in 18th century. And in China, although the GDP maintained positive growth, it was still the lowest growth rate that showed in the past 40 years.
All of the evidence from previous epidemics suggests that when you do that and then you release it, it all comes back again. So the other part of this is to make sure that we don't end up with a sudden peak again in the winter, which is even larger, which causes even more problems.
There are some video footage which provide us a glimpse of the lockdown in the northern area of China in this winter. The government made the seals and then put them on the doors of the residential buildings. On this movement, most of the residents chose to cooperate, and the medical workers would go to their home and do the COVID test in the following days. The inhabitants were strictly not allowed to leave their house. All the necessities was relying on the delivery by the volunteers, but sometimes, due to lack of labor, some of the residents might need to ask their neighbors to help with food. Even in a situation lack of food and not able to leave their house, the people can still understand and cooperate with the government. Under this kind of strict control, in a few weeks, the lockdown in Tonghua City went away on the end of February. In the same time, the UK is suffering from another national lockdown in this winter. This video was taken in Birmingham. It was clear to see most of the shops were closed on the street, just the same as in China. But the difference was that there were still many people walking around. Even the social distancing has not been followed. Under this freestyle kind of lockdown, it is hard to tell when the lockdown goes to the end.
Now, the first lockdown seems like such a long time ago. It's almost hard to remember, but the first time there was lockdown, you know, it was so sudden, and it was the first time we had dealt with something like that, right? So people were quite shocked and felt that people took it really seriously. And then over time, it became, okay, this is the new life. So now it just feels like it's, like today I was out, and there was lots of people around, lots of people coming kind of close to each other. In the first lockdown, when it first happened, I remember I would go for a walk, and people would be really worried about, okay, you've come this close to me, you know, you're not wearing a mask or something like that. If, you know, people are really worried about that kind of stuff. But today, in the street, lots of people not wearing a mask, lots of people sitting close to each other, lots of people kind of just feeling like it's coming up to summer and it's a normal time. Even if the shops are closed, we're not going to let that ruin our day, you know? Because I'm living with my mum and she's at risk, so I don't want to meet up with lots of people. For my personal situation, I didn't ever feel that I'm at risk. Okay, I heard that there's people my age, I still catch it, and I knew people who got corona around the same age as me, you know, around in the 20s, and they weren't really worried because they were fine. They got sick for a moment and then they came out of it okay, right? And that had seemed like that was the general feeling among my friends. Okay, if we get it, nothing really bad is going to happen. Even though some people, we heard on the news, oh, young people can still die. It's like, or whatever, you can die from smoking cigarettes. So a lot of people didn't take it seriously. Whereas older people were much more worried because they're at risk, right?
I think there was a bit more fear in the first lockdown. People are a lot more unknown about what the virus is and what it can do. I think a strict lockdown like the first one, people stick to it for a short period of time, then it becomes very hard to enforce.
So if you are seeing this is the fact, and when crisis comes, our action towards that is very extreme. We are going to demolish it instantly. Any risk is not allowed. Compared to the UK side, you start to see people not having a very good awareness of what exactly they are going to get. And so they lost the first period of get rid of it. When you are looking at the Western side, I mean, the last big pandemic they will experience was back in 1918 with the Spanish flu. And that we can very confidently say they have experienced proper pandemic for the century. And they didn't realize how severe it could be. So once that hit in Italy first, that was a big warning sign towards the UK, is why we are not doing anything. And then the spread really gone crazy. But in China, you could see, I mean, the government took a big hit and blocked Wuhan instantly, and then very strong policy. No one's going out. Everyone's following the rules because we want to save the economy. So in the UK, they were balancing exactly what we were trying to say is whether we save economy or life. So it was a hard decision for the first lockdown.
I think that over the winter, people are even at more risk, right? For dying from COVID, you know, everyone's more at risk from getting sick. So I think that they've handled this winter lockdown pretty well. There's been, you know, a greater like presence of now there's signs everywhere telling you about the effects, the reasons, and what the rules are. Like overall, I think that it's been hard enough, and I think that if it was any stricter, like in places like Italy and France, where they had like curfew, and after a certain time you couldn't do things, and I think it would have been an even harder winter where people are suffering from, just feeling like depressed.
I would say towards the end. Now I think UK government is doing the right thing. Last year it was a waste, in my opinion. This year they are really, really going down the ground, being solid, being tough and firm. That's what we need during crisis. Have a good communication strategy as a country, I think, from the government's point of view. We can understand lockdown doesn't make sense. And so lockdown plus vaccine is, you see a spike in December, but now we saw a dramatic drop in February of the case increase number. And the death rate definitely went down a lot. It's giving people a buffer of safetiness so they know, the thing we're doing are correct and we shouldn't panic.
So I work with disabled teenagers and young people in Coventry, attending special education. So young people with autism and learning disabilities and things like that. And a lot of my work is about getting young people out and about and doing things in the city. But obviously with everything being shut down, that's completely changed what we can do. So the biggest change I've seen is it's the negative effect that this has all had on young people and teenagers.
Like, I feel it's been especially really tough for children, who they need to be in school, and it's like a whole year missing from their education. And okay, they can learn certain things at home, like spend time with their family, learn how to fix things at home, learn how to cook some food, maybe. Like, there's lots of things they can learn, but the parents also have to work, and the parents have, so it's like a really difficult balance there. And I feel like some people, maybe some kids, they've been fine and they're able, their house, they've already got a good computer, they're able to learn at home. They had no problems before, at school. They were smart and everything was fine. But some kids who maybe at school they weren't a good student and it was tough, and now they've had a year like this, and now they're going to be really behind. They're going to fall even more behind. And I feel like it's really tough for them, most of all. For the old people, yeah, it's tough, but like for the really old, they just needed to, I don't want, this maybe is going to sound too rude or something. Like, of course, it's tough for them as well. They can't see people. Some people, they died, but, they couldn't meet their family before they died or something like that. But at the same time, they're not missing out as much as I feel like those kids were affected.
It's not good, and schools on and off. That's students' kind of mental health. I know they're doing good at home, watching YouTube, learning everything from online, but equally, parents will think, I'm sending my kids for education. What they're doing at home? Yeah, you can do everything via online, doing loads of coursework or assignments, but how you guarantee the quality? I don't know. I have loads of question marks.
When you have lessons in person, you go into the university, you're there, you feel like, okay, I'm here to study. Just like when you go to the gym, you feel like I'm going to work out because I'm in the gym. So when I'm at university, I study, and now I'm at home. And when I'm at home, what do? I watch TV and I play games and I sleep. So that's the kind of thing I do more of. So recently, it's like I go to the lessons less. I just feel like, I'm not bothered. The teacher is not good at teaching because it's a new system for them. They have to teach on a webcam. Hello, blah, blah, blah. And half the class, they have no webcam on. So the teacher's just talking to a blank screen, no feedback. It's hard for them, hard for us.
I think at the moment with the vaccine plan and how they are planning to roll it out, I think by July we would be back to some kind of normal, and hopefully by September.
I think if this lockdown can really hit hard and we follow it through for a good month to 2 months, I would say maybe summer.
I don't think we'll ever go back to a normal life. I don't think life will never be the same again.
I think it'll be a long time until we go completely back to normal. But hopefully by the summertime there'll be a sense of normality, and shops and restaurants will be back open and everyone will be able to socialise again.
So I recently got an email about music festivals that are back on in August, right? So I haven't been watching the news every day, because in the beginning it was like every day, let's watch the news, let's see the announcements. They get boring, it was like, okay, it still sucks, not much has changed, so I stopped watching that. But now I started getting emails saying, okay, soon we'll be able to open up our gym again, soon this festival we're taking bookings again. So it seems the overall feeling is that by summer we should be back to being able to enjoy ourselves.
You can see quite a lot of reports released by consultancy firm, especially by McKinsey. They estimated 2023 will be the benchmark year. We're looking forward to back to normal. Last year, we estimate the vaccine will be out in winter, and it did happen. So this year we will really test how effective vaccine is, and next year we will test how vaccines actually really work out for our life. And each winter will be a spike period for us to look at. And once we can pass the winter, and that's pretty much sure, we can pretty much happy or confident, we can go out again.
Are we going to have periods every year where we will have to lock down again because an old version of the vaccine is running out and people have not yet received their yearly top-up?
Let me deal with the vaccine question first of all. I think it's quite likely that we are going to need regular vaccination, at least for a few years. And I think it's quite likely that those vaccines may need to change a bit, as they do for flu every year. So I think that's quite likely that we're going to have some annual or maybe every 2-year vaccination. We don't know yet, and that may change. But that will be planned in the way it's planned for flu as well. I think coming this winter, a lot will be better because the vaccination will have been rolled out across a very large proportions of society. And hopefully if we can really bring the numbers down now, and with test and trace and isolate system in a much better place, that will lead us into a much better position in the summer and then going into next winter. As Chris Whittier said as well, I don't think that we can assume that there won't be anything needed next winter. Now, it's more likely to be making sure that we wear masks in certain places, making sure that we keep up with hand washing, making sure that we're sensible about the way in which we interact with people in indoor environments. That's the sort of thing that you might anticipate. But, this virus has taken us by surprise time and time again, and we just don't know. I'd be very surprised if we go in year on year with needing to do things more than that.
很多人都是从不同的城市赶到雅加达，然后今天早晨3点多钟一直在机场等到现在，说是因为中国方面不让我们回国，我们需要说法，我们需要援助，我们要回国。
Thank you.
有个别的中国人，有一些中国人啊，这个他们通过某种途径啊闯关回到国内，他实际上是把病毒带回了国内，把病毒带回了国内，这个要在道义上是要受到谴责的。
He said that a few Chinese people brave through the customs. Such behavior was actually bringing the virus back to China. This word came out of a diplomat was just hard to believe. First of all, there was no report on this breakthrough custom were found anywhere, but only his word. Secondly, going home is actually bringing the virus back to the country was a serious accusation to the people who just want to go home. Thirdly, he said that this behavior should be morally condemned, but if they had really done it, according to the Chinese law, they should have been punished.
但是为了逃脱责任，他就说，俄罗斯不让我们待了，我们在那儿就是没有活路了，我们实在是没有办法，我们被赶回来了。
The Russian government wanted to kick us away. What's the reason why those Chinese want to go home? Was that truth or not is difficult to verify. But even if this saying was fake, as Mr. Zhang said, it is still hard to understand why the Chinese people need a certain reason to go back home. Anyway, Mr. Zhang blamed that they have no moral bottom line.
这是没有道德底线的，没有道德底线的。
在这个绥芬河口岸的问题上，好像一度有消息啊，说在朋友圈散布的，说是13号以后将恢复通关。虽然这个消息现在已经过了13号，显然没有成真哈，但是仍然有不少同胞可能因此就滞留在这个弗拉迪沃斯托克。而且我们知道，在弗拉迪沃斯托克现在必须有14天的隔离期啊。那对于这样的一些同胞，咱们的使馆有哪些提醒、帮助，包括信息的发布？
我想就这个事情强调以下几点。第一，在疫情完全结束之前，中俄陆路口岸的旅检功能，我指的是旅客的旅检功能，绝不会再开启。什么时候疫情完全结束了，什么时候旅检功能再开启，这是第一。
这是大家很关心的，就是陆路口岸再开启的问题，只有疫情结束了才开启，是吗？那是
完全结束才能开启，这是100%的，
那对于这样的一些同胞，咱们的使馆有哪些提醒、帮助，包括信息的发布？
滞留在远东的这些中国公民，他们就要在当地接受隔离，同时他们要安排好自己的生活。准备要生活到疫情结束，在这个之前，我们所有的陆路口岸绝不会再做出特殊的安排，所以这个允许他们过境，这样的话就没完了，绝不会再做出特殊的安排，所以这个允许他们过境，这样的话就没完了。
In terms of how strict things are now, I think it's actually about the right level for me. I don't see how they can make it more strict.
历史会证明，对中国采取卡脖式的办法来打压的办法，最后受损失的是自己。
History will show that one can only cause damages to himself if he wants to strangle or suppress the Chinese people.
中国就是要把中国的事情办好，把我们14亿人的 人民的生活提高，这就是中国的外交的目标。
And for China, we will manage our own affairs well, and we hope to deliver a better life for our 1.4 billion Chinese people. This is the goal of China's diplomacy.